A warm welcome. Returning. It is Big Fight Weekly, episode 69. It will be episode 162 on Stu's Wrestling Podcast. That'll be out in a week or two. And my guest is my former co-host. It is Chris Hume. We are back for a year in review, 2023. I know there's been a lot of moments, mate. Obviously, we've whittled them down as best we can. And how's 2023 been for you in terms of the fight game, man?
Bit crazy, isn't it? When you go to like the level of the YouTube boxing, and then the titles that have changed hands in UFC, the UK sort of coming through finally in UFC. But I know Bisping's done it before, but having two at the same time is something we've never witnessed before. And boxing as well, because you've had all sorts of back and forward of Fury, Usyk. And then Anthony Joshua coming back properly and having a bit of a fault, but winning, but maybe being better, towards what was it? October, September time when he was fighting, and so we've had a lot of, as you said, as you introed, then we had a lot of fights to pick from. It's a lot of really good fights, and a lot what went unnoticed as well. If we sidetrack the big fights and look at the up and comers, there's a lot of good talent coming through on both sports.
Absolutely. Now I think we've got to go. We'll open the show with our topics. Obviously, Tom Aspinall, mate, interim UFC heavyweight champion, a fantastic performance not too long ago, about a month ago now. And just your thoughts on him becoming interim champion. And just fantastic for us as UK fans, and amazing what he's managed to achieve in not that many fights, really.
I think with Thomas, do you remember when he first broke through? He broke through in Saudi, didn't he? At Fight Island, and I can't remember the opponent he fought, but he showed his boxing, and his boxing, was really, really good. And you can see that he's trained boxing, proper boxing, he's alluded that he's trained with the Fury brothers, hasn't he? And more so Tyson than Tommy, but so he had that background, and he was also, his jiu-jitsu background, but we didn't know that at the time. And he goes and levels things off, Alosky, and then nails all these up and comers within 30 seconds. The guy hasn't really been out of the first round, and then we're pushing him a bit up to see, where he can go. And then we obviously had Derek Lewis and him, not Derek Lewis, sorry. His name's now gone out my head. When he got injured last year.
Curtis Blades.
That's the one. And it was the leg kick, wasn't it? And I remember speaking to you, and we were disappointed because that fight was nearly 10 seconds in, and he obviously went for a leg kick, blew his knee, and you were a bit, where does he go here? Does he come back the same person? Because, it was a bad injury. But, press fast forward, Stuart. And lo and behold, he's here holding an interim title against a Eastern European fighter that nobody wanted to fight against because they were worried about the knockout power. And Tom was scared himself. He said, this is the most scared he's been in a fight before. But what does he go and do, Stuart? Matt goes fire against fire, uses his footwork, but moves out the way ever so slightly, and then hits him with a straight and an uppercut, 2 combo, puts him down, hammer fist, just to make sure it's over. And he gets what he deserves. I think with Tom Aspinall and his style, it's where the heavyweights go in the future. But it's not just stand and bang and who hits the hardest and hits first wins. You can have everything now. Mixed martial arts isn't just about wrestling or just jiu-jitsu or kickboxing. You have to have all elements and be pretty good at all elements as well, because the sport is evolving so quickly.
I'm going to move on. I'm sticking with Tom here, but this is previous, this clip. This is when he called out John Jones the first time before getting the interim title. I'm just going to switch up the format so the viewers can see the full video, because it's...
I'm going to go to Paris. I'm going to be sat front row for Cyril Gane against Sergey Spivak. I'm going to beat the winner, and then I'm going to beat John Jones.
Well, he didn't get Cyril Gane because Cyril Gane wouldn't take the fight. He's already beaten Spivak in
absolutely
2 minutes. Not even that, I think it was about 1 minute 30 seconds.
Light work for the big man, isn't it?
Cyril Gane wouldn't fight Tom Aspinall. Now, me and you went over this a lot of times when we did this on a regular, and it was a good fight. The styles matched up because they were the new sort of generation of heavyweights in the UFC. But Cyril Gane didn't want to take that fight. He was offered that fight, didn't want it. Obviously, it gets moved over. Tom now is the interim interim champion. But where does he go? Because we've still got another fight to go first. And, we don't know how long John Jones is going to be out. We don't know if Miocic would want that fight against Tom. He's stuck in a dilemma. I know Cyril Gane's called him out, but he's poo-pooed that because he's pretty much said, I offered you to fight and you didn't want it, but now I've got a belt. Now you want the fight. I can see his argument there. I'd still like to see it, but he's in a bit of a limbo now.
I said to you off camera, I love Tom. I think he's done fantastic. I just think Jones will be too much. If that does come to be in 2024, of course, because like you say, trying to get these fights made now and people out and things like that, I still think Jones wins. But like you said, if he can get him to the ground, Aspinall, he's no slouch on the ground, as you alluded to off camera.
No, well, his dad was fantastic in the arts of jiu-jitsu, and he again is taken from his father and is very good. You've seen him submit people, and he made light work of doing that. John Jones, we know, is very good at taking people down and sort of chipping away at them until he can, he gets in. I think usually he likes to get in the half guard and then drop elbows. Is he going to be able to do that against someone like Tom Aspinall, who knows when to move and set you up? So it's an interesting fight, and it's intriguing because I don't think he's going to outbox Tom Aspinall as John Jones. As much as John Jones has got fantastic reach, he's never been a fantastic striker. He just was very good at mixing all elements together, wasn't he?
Movement. And I know it's obvious for me to say as well, but it's the extra weight as well, isn't it? He's got to be careful. He's got to be. I know that's an obvious thing to say, Chris, but and the guys he's managed to do it to, like you said, what respect for Pavlovich before the fight, going back to Tom, there was immense respect. You felt there was a bit of fear there as well. Maybe he was just doing that, maybe he wasn't really feeling that, but it was what a performance. And what was it, 60 odd seconds?
Yeah,
it was unreal.
He did get clipped by Pavlovich, don't forget.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I mean, we've not seen Tom Aspinall, take a punch per se. Curtis Blake caught him very minimal, but he was going down with the injury at that point anyway. But everyone's scared of Pavlovich. Tom said that himself. People are scared of this guy. People thinking, he knocks people out, but so does Tom Aspinall. And Tom Aspinall showed you there the right footwork, the head movement, and then setting you up. It works still, and it's an old thing you do in boxing. And to this day, it's still pivotal that you can do that correctly, even against the scariest power punches, and they go a bit wild. You can win a fight, and he proved it. So he's used all the skills and all the knowledge he's gained, and he's rightfully a champion. Okay, he's not the proper champion, but that's in the future possibly for him.
So good, and let's shed a bit more light on Stipe being in and around it as well.
Oh yeah, of course.
There's so much they can do. There's so many fights they can make, Chris, and just waiting for Jones. You got to wonder what will be set up. To keep us going early on in 2024, of course.
It's a hard one with Stipe Miocic, isn't it? Because he hasn't fought since he lost to Ngannou. Ngannou's now left UFC, moved to PFL, unquote, beat Tyson Fury. Made a name for himself now completely. He's 10 now in the rankings.
Yeah, I was going to say WBC. He's in the top 10 with that performance, which you can't knock him. Yeah. Unreal.
But we haven't had a whistle from Miocic bar this fight with John Jones. It's been slated the whole entire year when we do finally get round to it. Obviously, John Jones, unfortunately, has a tear in a muscle that comes off. I think Triple H had that many years ago when it came off the quad.
It did.
Yeah.
And his leg is one with his leg as well. When he had the green angle, Sorry, going off on a tangent there.
No, but I'm just trying to sort of make sense to people.
Who's had it similarly, yeah.
Those sort of injuries are freakish, but it happens. It happens, and then did you see Steve Payton when Tom Aspinall was fighting on that fight against Bradley?
I did see when they cut away to him in the crowd. Yeah,
he looked old.
Is he still firefighting?
Yeah, I think he's still doing that.
Bless him, like still doing. That's normality to me. That is, what a man. A lot of people hold him in high regard, saying he's the greatest heavyweight. I know that's subjective, Chris. I know you've got your points of view. I know there's a guy that you still hold in high regards to this day because I was speaking about him the other week. But some people do have Miocic as the greatest. It's subjective. It's subjective. Yeah.
It's the 3 times, Stuart. I'm doing 4 then. It's the 3 times that he's done it and no one else has done it. And I can't bash that around as the GOAT. Yeah, okay, he beat Ngannou, great, and he revenged against Cormier and then decisively beat him in the 3rd. But then Cormier, I thought myself, was finished pretty much after he beat him the first time round. But we didn't really see him up against anyone else, did we? We didn't get to see who could he beat a Curtis Blades? Could he beat a Derek Lewis? Could he take a punch from Pavlovich? Or Cyril Gane? Could he afford him?
Questions that
but we never got to see it because the guy, he lost his title, went away, and wouldn't come back unless it was a title shot. And in my eyes, if you've lost convincingly, like he did, that to me shouldn't mean you've got an immediate rematch, unless it's very close or a decision that's a very close one that is warranted. But I think if you've been decisively finished, then you shouldn't, demand an immediate rematch, no matter how many times you defended the title.
Absolutely. We look forward to what transpires in the UFC heavyweight division. Fantastic from Tom Aspinall. Incredible what he has achieved. And yeah, it's going to be fantastic in 2024. We await matches to be made, Chris, of course. Moving on to this weekend, it is our welterweight champion of the world. It is Leon Edwards defending against Colby Covington, Chris. And Leon has been absolutely fantastic, flying the flag for the UK, of course. And your thoughts leading into the match and a fantastic year for Edwards, absolutely.
Well, what, Stuart, not only did he knock out the pound for pound best decisively, and don't forget he was losing that fight, and when he head kicked Usman, it was literally the last throw of the dice. Worked, and then we got the rematch, didn't we, in London? Just seeing how can he actually back that up, or was it a fluke? He most definitely backed it up against Usman. Usman, I think, is in 2 minds. I don't know whether he's interested in still fighting or, does he want to move on to pastures new? But it wasn't the same Usman I think I remember, because he was very dominant, wasn't he? And he was aggressive with his takedowns. Couldn't really do anything to Usman, to Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards was trying to set him up for the head kick again, obviously, to sort of sway him to do something else with. But I think he perfectly controlled Usman in the second fight without really getting into any scary moments. And I think that's where I think you're looking at Leon Edwards. It's like a coming of age of him, because you've beaten Usman twice. Maybe the first time, it was very close because he was on, he was about to lose that. And then the second one, you just showed him coming of age and being able to deal with, a fantastic wrestler and a power puncher. Don't forget now, in Usman.
Absolutely. You time and time again, Chris. With this show, especially, you said about Usman how much he improved on his standing. He was beating people, like you say. So yeah, just to do it so decisively in the second fight.
Yeah,
fantastic from Edwards, Chris. You can't. What fantastic.
And don't forget, this guy was on a 7 fight. Winning streak. COVID hit, couldn't get a fight. And I don't think, you know what I mean? I think if it was the UK fighters were struggling, weren't they, to get over to the States, you know, to get a fight. You know, he comes back, accidentally, you know, thumbs Bilal in the eye, which he was winning that fight anyway. But then look how good Bilal's come ever since that fight as well.
Yeah, you can't knock him.
But, you know, he's had to chip away at things. You know, Diaz nearly finished him, even though he completely dominated for Diaz. So he had the reverse of him versus Usman almost. You know, you got to be proud with him because the guy is fought pretty much everybody he can fight to get to where he's at. And now, obviously, you've got the guy in question now. He's fighting Kobe Covington, who's a completely different kettle of fish because he can strike, and we've seen him mix it up really well. And he did against Usman in the third fight. The second fight, sorry. In the second fight, he mixed it up and arguably could have won that fight against Usman way before Edwards knocked him out. And he was, you know, he was very, very good. He's you know, Kobe's just dynamite, isn't he? It's just the pressure he puts on fighters up against the cage, dirty boxing, but it's very quick. And when you're thinking, you know, you can come out here, he takes you down, controls you on the ground. And, you know, again, he's very good. Has been submitted once, but that was a very long time ago, and it was a guillotine. I think it was Wally Alvarez that submitted him. But, you know, it's one of them. It happens if you're not paying attention. I don't think Leon Edwards is going to submit Kobe Covington. I think he's going to have to worry about that.
Could it be more problematic, Covington, rather than Usman for him? Or do you think he can retain? I'll put that one to you. I'll put that scenario to you. In terms of, like, you know, reiterate what you're saying about pressure from Covington. It's a different type of fight, isn't it, of course?
Of course it is, yeah. I think at the moment, welterweight's the best division. It's just got the fighters that, you know, everyone's really excited to see what can happen with. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because you got to lead in with your head now, not your heart. And, you know, we want Leon Edwards because we, again, and I've always said this since we started Big Fight Weekly, we're very biased towards UK fighters, but we're not, you know, we give credit where it's due to everybody. But against Kobe, I think he's gonna have to have a very good cardio because we know Kobe Covington's got a fantastic cardio, and he can keep the pace for 5 rounds, and he can, you know, really push it through the 5 rounds. So I think Leon Edwards is gonna have to be smart here, you know, and make traps for Kobe Covington when he comes in, a bit more aggressive. You know, when he's trying to push him against the cage and, you know, really zap the power out of Leon Edwards. He's got to set traps. You know, not get taken down if he can hold that. But then don't forget, he took Usman down in the first fight, did Edwards, and, you know, got into full mount and everything. Unluckily, you know, it was too early in the fight, I think, for that to happen, you know, for him to finish there. I think it's just he's got to lay traps and then uses, because he's lightning fast with his jabs, and put it out there and then just make openings for himself. Because Kobe does get over aggressive sometimes. So he's obviously pick his punches, pick his kicks, you know, and just try and, like I say, lay traps, because it's hard to fight to sort of break down, because we know what UK fighters are like against very good wrestlers. Leon Edwards is a bit different because he's, you know, very good at takedown defense as well as an offense for takedown. But it's facing Covington is just, like I said, it's a whole different kettle of fish because what he can bring to the table.
Do you think he'll be in the back of Covington's mind, Chris? I'm going to say, like, that head kick, or will they have trained so heavily in the gym for it, if you know what I mean? Do you think that plays into it at all? Will he not pay any attention to that? He'll just fight his fight, do what he knows he can do? Or is that going to be in the back of his mind? Is that going to be in his psyche?
Well, I think it'll be there because, you know, he fought Usman twice, you know, and he caught Usman a fair few times in their fights and couldn't get Usman out of there. Edwards hit him once and you know, KO'd him. You probably will have that in the back of your mind, but I don't think he'll feel like he'll be caught by that, because he won't be as sloppy as Usman was at the end. Because I think Usman sort of chilled out a bit, didn't he? Because he's thinking, right, I've only got, 30 seconds, fights in the bag, and then got caught. I don't think Kobe's that kind of person. I don't think you'll get that from Kobe. I think he'll be on it to the start to the end, unless obviously he gets finished during that.
We look forward to the card this weekend, mate. It's going to be fantastic. And we've had a bit of news, although, as you said off camera, this is not yet confirmed, but it's been heavily touted that it is going to happen. It is Kevin Holland, and it will be the debut of Michael Venom Page. He's been a mainstay with Bellator. He's also done his boxing as well, hasn't he, Chris? He's had his pro boxing bouts as well. And I know when this story was making waves, you did message me about this when it was happening. So, yeah, it's looking very likely, isn't it? But not fully confirmed as yet for 297.
Well, yeah, in January, isn't it? I'd love to see it. And I think what a welcome fight this would be at middleweight for Venom Page against, a guy that I have a lot of respect for, Kevin Holland. You know what I mean? When we first started this, he was one of my fighters to watch. Okay, not lived up completely to that dream. But, he's gotten better, I think, since he went up a weight. It's just, it'd be interesting to see if this actually comes to fruition and we actually see Venom Page in UFC. I think I've wanted it for a while. I think he was suited for this sort of division, and I think there's a few fights that I think he can quite easily possibly win. Kim Venom Page, so it'd be interesting. But again, all he said is he's been flirting with UFC, isn't he, Michael Venom Page? He's not going to outright say, "Oh, I've got a contract and I'm facing Kevin Holland." Same for Kevin Holland. He hasn't come out and said, "Well, yeah, I'm fighting Venom Page." He's poo-pooed that one and said, like, I've not been offered a fight. We've seen on the board and a picture, in the UFC headquarters for 297, and it has K Holland v M Page. There's no other fighter called M Page that I know of. So, maybe that's just like, that's what they want to do if they can get Venom Page, signed, sealed, and delivered. That's the fight they'll go for. And I think that's perfect. And I think, it's a good start out for Venom Page. But I think what we all want to see is Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Michael Venom Page. That is a dream fight. And I think that's what people would love to see. I know they're both managed by the same people. And they have both spoke about, if they were ever going to come together. But they haven't said no. So that's a good thing. I'd like to see it personally myself. But, we just have to get that announcement that he's signed for UFC, and I think then we can get excited for Michael Venom Page. He's wild, he's crazy, he does things that you have to look twice at, and he likes his little funny things at the end of fights, doesn't he? Pokemon and bloody Thor arms or hands, whatever, the gauntlet, and yeah, I'm excited to see it because he's another good fighter that, I feel like UFC should have picked him up a long time ago.
Yeah.
We're getting him a bit later on in his 30s now, but, they just signed a guy who's 6'7" in his 35, isn't he? So, there's still a bit of gas in that tank for him.
Absolutely. Chris, Lewis has commented. I will pull some comments up. Actually, we've got time. Lewis, I'll give this one to Chris. What do you think of Cage Warriors coming to Glasgow next year?
Well, Cage Warriors is a UK-based company anyway, so I think they should be going up and down the UK as much as possible. We're seeing, as me and Stu have just been speaking about, Leon Edwards, Tom Aspinall, other fighters are going to see this now, and want to get into MMA. Cage Warriors is a perfect place to start. Look at how many fighters have come through Cage Warriors. Well, look, the two names I just said then come through Cage Warriors. Michael Bisping came through Cage Warriors. Mm-hmm. Conor McGregor came through Cage Warriors. You have got, a lot of talent that have come up. Not, Paddy's, he's fighting this weekend as well. Absolutely. Against Tony Ferguson. He came through that. Ian Gary, who's fighting as well, Albert Luque, he's doing the same. I think it'd be good for Scotland. I like Scottish fighters. Big Paul's good. One of my favourite submission artists. I know he lost the other week by a submission.
I'll tell you what, though, mate, he was on a hell of a run, wasn't he?
He
was doing. You can't take away from him, and he's raised his profile, hasn't he? Shame he lost, but
he's got to win over. Well, I'd say, can you say current champion, even though Jamal Hill was injured and relinquished it? Because he didn't really lose it. But, He has got a win over Jamal Hill. Listen, he dropped down a weight, didn't he? Because he wanted to try that out. In much respect to Paul Craig, I love Paul Craig. It's just everything about him. You can just smell the Scottishness from Paul Craig. It just has the aura of the Scotsman, doesn't he?
I love the face paint. I love the face paint. Highlander.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? He might not win a title, but his highlights will be forever known in MMA.
I'm saying Highlander, but I suppose like Braveheart. I just go for the typical. I go for the typical Scottish films, but it's
two good films there, though.
It adds pizzazz when you see someone done up and all that. It does, like, you want the pageantry, you want a bit of theatre along the way, don't you? Yeah. You're waiting for him to get in the cage, but yeah, no.
You want to sell a fight, though, don't you? You want to sell a fight, and
John BT Chris, return of King Chris. He's very happy that you are back on our screens. Absolutely,
that's a very good friend of mine, is Mr. BT. He might just support the red side, though, so you have to give him.
I was going to say, is he related to James Beattie?
No.
Ah, Christ almighty. Right, okay. And also from Lewis, just quickly before we go back into our topics, what did you think of the Chris Bungard match from last weekend?
I haven't watched last weekend's UFC. I completely forgot it was on. But I haven't been very well, as you can see. I'm not in a great place at the moment. Like, I'm quite. So I haven't really got through to UFC. I will watch it at some point this week. I think I've been more. You see, when we get to big cards, Lewis, I sort of forget about the fight nights, and I start focusing and doing, watching stuff building up to the bigger cards. And but I've read reports and watched people on YouTube speak about the fights, and they did say it was an excellent card. So I will go back before this weekend, and I'll have a watch. And when me and Stuart come back on Big Fight Weekly next year, at some point, I'll answer your question then.
Absolutely. Thank you, John, and thank you, Lewis, for the comments. Keep them coming as well. We're going to move on though to something that happened a couple of months ago. I'm just trying to get my time frame right here, mate. But I will put the graphic up first, and it was Mr. Sean Strickland, Chris, getting middleweight gold, and I call it a shock. How did you feel when this happened against against Adesanya, one of the best pound for pound to ever race the sport?
And I think at this point, wasn't Adesanya on 4 title defenses as well this year? I don't know if I even think there's been a champion in the last couple of years, Stuart, that have defended the title as much as he has. It was a shock, but I don't know whether it was a lot going on beforehand with Adesanya, because he did not seem himself in this fight. And no disrespect to Sean Strickland, because he stuck to his game plan and overwhelmed him with just constant pressure and strikes, and Adesanya just couldn't get anything off. And don't forget, he dropped him as well, Strickland. It's just, I don't know. I just didn't see the same old Izzy. I didn't see the flair. And I'm not, when I say cockiness now, I don't mean as an arrogant, cocky, but just the way he moves. It is very Anderson Silva-like. But to tear the sort of your opponent, and he just didn't see any flair in the fight. You just saw Adesanya really struggle to keep up with the pace. That might be against going back to fighting or defending the title 4 times in a year. That might have zapped him a bit. All that Alex Pereira stuff as well, don't forget. And he's been knocked out this year as well. Does take its toll. I think he'll come back, but as he's alluded to himself, he's not rushing to come back now, which opens up the middleweight division, which is great. I don't know, just didn't seem himself being almost.
Can he get gold back? That'd be my first question on this, because he's done it. He's done it before, we know, and he's avenged defeats and things. But what do you think? Is he still, how old is he now? Mid-30s?
I'd say.
Yeah, that's the question. That might be a bit obvious. Like, I'm sure, like, you're not one of the pound for pound best, where you can't come back again. And but how would you feel?
How about I spin this now? And we do Alex Pereira, Izzy 4 at 205. And we see Izzy move up to 205 properly. do it properly. Not like against Bohovic when he didn't do it properly. He only put weight on. He didn't get his body ready for light heavyweight. But how about he comes back next year, revitalized up to light heavyweight, because a light heavyweight needs someone like him in that division.
Star power.
Yeah,
star power, someone who can talk and hold their own. Not knocking the guys can fight in there, but like you say, it's having the whole package, isn't it, Chris? It's being able to sell it, which he can do. He can do it in spades, can't he?
And I'd say hopefully he'd go that way, because what's he got to prove at middleweight? Yeah, okay, go back down and beat Strickland, and there's Duplessis, who we've seen
how well has he done?
Fantastic.
I've enjoyed him. He's a breath of fresh air as well. Yeah. Just his demeanour, the way he is. There's nobody like him, and my word, he's got the skills. That lad, I've been very impressed. I've been very impressed with him, Chris.
You also got to think, right? I know he beat Darren Till, but the way he beat Robert Whittaker, you got to give props to Darren Till actually, because Darren Till got submitted in the end, but he did better against Duplessis better than everybody else has done. So, yeah, there are fights, like those fights are there for Izzy. But who else is there? There isn't anyone else. There really isn't anyone else for him in that division. So, yeah, 205 next year would be absolutely banging.
Justin Clapper, I think it's 7 o'clock in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin. And I was chatting to him this morning, early hours. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning there. He's, I don't know how much sleep you've had, but he says, happy holidays, boys.
And to you, mate.
Thank you very much, Clapper. Thank you. I know you enjoyed the show. And happy holidays to you. And fantastic. After all your health issues earlier on in the year, mate, you've done so well.
Good to see you getting better.
Let me tell you, what a guy you're, my hero. You really are. You truly are, man. You've done fantastic, and it's great having you fit and healthy again, JC. Absolutely, absolutely. Chris, should we move on to some social media, YouTube boxing?
Well, it was one of the biggest things this year, so why not?
Now, I've took a full 360, as I've said to you over the year. I like the polls now. Can you believe it?
Do you want to say that a bit louder?
I like the polls now, all right? Humble pie. Okay. I've eaten humble pie.
Yeah, massive fucking humble pie.
I think, segueing with Logan, what Logan's done in WWE. I don't want to make it about WWE. Just quick.
No, I think it's a good. Yeah, I'd say I would have brought up him in WWE because now he obviously he's a United States champion. He's done well.
Undertaker was very complimentary about him. He said in-ring agility and all that, fantastic. He said he just needs to work on his promos because Undertaker's got his podcast now, which is really good, by the way. I recommend it. It's very good. But he made light about Logan Paul and how well he's done in such a short space of time.
Very athletic, Stuart. I didn't realise, when I've seen his wrestling matches, how good he is. Yeah, the movement, it's like a young Shawn Michaels, but obviously the flair's not there yet. He's still young in the game, isn't he? But the movement is just, brilliant. But, this is where I think he should stay. I don't think he should do any more boxing. Logan Paul, I think, his podcasting, being a YouTuber, yes. Selling Primer, KSI, yes. But WWE should be the way he goes forward now because I think he's a perfect fit. And he can have some, and he's had some great matches, but, as time goes on, he can have even better.
And he stopped Ray from injuring himself as well because he nearly went. And just having that wherewithal so early on in your career to know something's going to happen and start. It's just fantastic, mate. I've had to take a U-turn on these guys, mate. I really have. I truly have. I'll hold my hands up. I was wrong, just fantastic. Going back to the boxing, of course, that they've been so prevalent in. Now, this card, Salt Pappy and whoever he was fighting, Slim. I can't remember. That was fight of the night, but I also like the tag team one.
Yeah, when
someone started getting peppered, they were tagging in. There was like panic stations. But yeah, Salt Pappy and Slim, mate, that was fight of the night because they just put it all out there. But these two matches, mate, they didn't deliver. And on Logan Paul's end, it was Dylan Dennis playing around, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, Dylan Dennis just wanted, he wanted to take him down, which I'm like, you're in the wrong sport. This is boxing. This isn't jiu-jitsu. This isn't mixed martial arts. You can't try and, roll Logan Paul up for a guillotine and stuff like that, and it's like, it was awful. You know what I mean? I stayed up to watch these. I know it wasn't that late, but I was going to watch Blink-182 in the same arena the next day, wasn't I? And yeah, dreadful fights. The build-up was great. Don't get me wrong; they can sell a fight, the pair of them. But yeah, I don't want to see Logan Paul in a boxing ring again, and I certainly don't want to see Dylan Dennis any combat sports again. To be honest with you,
I think in Logan Paul's defence, he wanted to go with him, didn't he? He did, but it's just like when he was sat on the ground, and I was hoping that punch landed. He tried to do what he was trying to do on the ground to him. When he threw that one, I was hoping that was going to land on his face because, I'm not a fan of Dylan Dennis.
He's a prick, isn't he? Lives off Conor McGregor's fucking bell end, that one.
Yeah.
And but the end of the fight, you couldn't even call it really. I don't know. He disqualified Dylan Dennis, didn't he, for trying to? I think he tried to guillotine him, didn't he? Bring him down, and he disqualified him for that. But then all that flipping mayhem at the end as well. You know what I mean? As much as I don't mind YouTube boxing because it's quite funny, and sometimes you do get a decent fight now and again, but it's poor on the sport to see all that come in the ring and all that bollocks trying to hit stewards and security guards and I'm like that you know what I mean, it's not a good light. You know what I mean, I was looking forward to the fight. Shit fight. Logan Paul staying wrestling, Dylan Dennis go down a drain with rolling rats and don't come back out.
What was that jacket he was wearing? That fur coat, whatever he was wearing, and
was he trying to recreate the Gucci mink with?
I just talked the good game when it came down to it, shit. I can't stand and trade with him, and I'll go against the rules and do what I do, what my bread and butter is. But it was shocking, mate. It was absolutely shocking. Now KSI and Tommy Fury, Chris, again, it wasn't great. It wasn't great. Was it? There was a lot of holding. It was annoying me. KSI felt aggrieved, didn't he? About shots to the back of the head.
But they were both doing it, though.
Absolutely. I felt for Tommy in some respects because KSI was holding a lot. He really was. But it didn't deliver what it should have delivered. It was very sluggish, slow. Throw some punches for God's sake. Proper. Have a bit of distance. Let's have a go. It was boring. It just did not do what it was meant to do, I felt.
I totally agree there. I think Tommy talked a big game again, didn't deliver again. This guy is a professional boxer, supposedly a professional boxer, and he's gone the distance, very close distances with two mainstream YouTubers. And, could have lost either of those fights. I actually do think he lost to KSI, personally. I think KSI hit the bigger shots. But, that isn't something I could, personally, if I was him, I could be celebrating. And I don't know how John Fury could, even though actually saying that John Fury fought and Tyson fought, KSI win anyway. It's just a difficult situation, isn't it, to be in? You come in to this world, which is, social media and it's boxing. And he talks this, I'm going to knock you out and all that. And he doesn't deliver twice. And he was boring in both fights because he looked like he didn't know what he was doing.
At least for Jake came and had a go, didn't he? Properly at him.
Yeah,
it was a better fight. That anything was better than that. But I will give them their due. They both had a go out in Saudi earlier on in the year, which we covered, didn't we? We did specials, build-ups, and reviews and stuff. I felt it wasn't bad when them two went at it earlier on in the year. When you put it up against this, but that was it was dreadful. It was dreadful, Chris. I just don't get it. Go for it. Let's have a go.
Yeah, but then ego's getting away, isn't it? And it's like, I don't want to go down here, and and then as you say, it turned into a clinch fest, and nobody wants to see that.
It's not what it's about. That's why I say, obviously, about Salt Pappy and Slim. Two lads on the undercard giving it the absolute best. You don't mind as much as YouTube boxing gets shat on at that. You don't mind when you see that two guys going at it, laying it all on the line. That's all we want. That's all we want as fight fans.
Yeah, but not everyone wants to do that.
No, of course.
But they made a lot of money. Obviously, KSI's agreed
in that respect. I think money. It's driven by the money, not boxing ability. I think they're just, I'll make millions as opposed to making hundreds of thousands.
Yeah,
that is what drives them. I think it's the money, not necessarily getting in there and doing what we're paying for them to do.
Well, I think it's hard to say, because I've watched KSI for years, and he has done the impossible and worked for it. And I think with the fight with Tommy, I think he generally did work for it, training wise. And you can understand why he'd be a bit aggrieved about it, because obviously, really, he hasn't really lost anything, because he's always won something, hasn't he? His music and prior boxing matches before that, and then obviously being a YouTuber and doing things that people thought you couldn't do, and I give props to that for KSI. But, in regards of, you can train all that hard, but when you just don't have that, style, and it was very MVP stylish, KSI was emulating. We've seen, a lot of fights with Venom Page, and that's how he stands, how he bounces, but he's very quick and connects with a lot of things, you know what I mean? And he's very fast. KSI is obviously not as experienced as Michael Venom Page when it comes to using that stance, but yeah, it was crap. That's as nice as in plain as
I tell you, it's funny. Just to go out with all the build-up. I found all the build-up hilarious. I did like Mike Perry being there as well. If there was a pull-out, I was like, he'll batter you all. He'll absolutely
would.
He will lever you all if he gets involved. You don't want anything of him, especially how well he's done with the BKB.
I said this to Alison, and don't forget the other night we did to Eddie Alvarez. I said this to Alison when she asked, who's that? And I said, it's Mike Perry. And then I reeled off, the fights. And then, said, BKFC is very boxing-like, but there's no gloves. And I said, but he's a life ruiner. And when she said, if that guy doesn't fight Logan Paul, I went, Logan Paul doesn't want anything to do with
No, not a chance. No one on that stage, anyone around that weight would be shitting themselves, because fair play to him, coming out the MMA.
He's made a name for himself.
It's been fantastic for him.
Yes.
And as much as he comes across nice, there's a side to him. You just would not want to get on his bad side.
No, you don't want that guy raining punches towards you.
He speaks well, though. He speaks well.
Yeah, and you know what?
He's good.
I'd like to see if they want to use, Mike Perry in Misfits, give Darren Till a call and let's have Darren Till versus Mike Perry.
They've had back and forth, haven't they? Yeah, they've had back and forth, them two, haven't they? Playfully, but if there's money to be made, Chris,
let's have it.
Fighters mentality. Chris, obviously, just staying with YouTube, social media. Obviously, Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz, which is quite a while back now. It was August, wasn't it?
I think, end of August.
Just in closing with our social media side, obviously, we know Nate has come from MMA, of course. Got to give him his props, MMA legend. But yeah, Jake does it again. Jake did it again.
Yeah, and it was another horrible fight. I don't know if you watched it, but Nate walked him down pretty much the entire fight, and then pretended to get him in the guillotine and lock it up. I don't know how, and I said to Stuart, I don't know how people can lock up a guillotine with boxing gloves. But he's typical Diaz, just didn't care, did he? Just carried on doing what he wanted to do and fought around, which is pretty much what he's done in most of his career, hasn't he? He hasn't taken anything really seriously, other than his brother Nick, who has become a champion and done lots. These two back and forward ever since, haven't they? They wanted Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz in the PFL, but I don't think Diaz is interested in fighting in the PFL. If he comes back to MMA, I most definitely say it'd be UFC. But yeah. Jake Paul's fighting an actual boxer, I believe, in December. I don't know what his name is. I try not get myself too much interested in Jake Paul's fights because he does actually get on my nerves. But apparently he's fighting. Apparently he's fighting a proper boxer. I think it's the 5th. Actually, I don't know if it's over this week. Yeah, it's this weekend, the 15th. Yeah.
No, next that'll be a week.
There you go. Then
The 9th this weekend. It'll be 16th.
Yeah, there you go. Then you'd have to look him up, but yeah, he's fighting again next weekend. But that's one where I'll probably just look for it on the internet.
Absolutely. Now back into professional ranks, into the boxing, Chris. I was so happy about 2 or 3 weeks ago. The anguish with the bloody heavyweight division since we've been doing the show and prior to when we started the show, the fight's not getting made. Me and you made reference to it so many times. The frustration of it. Thank God for the Saudis, the Prince, the King, whatever his title is, His Excellency, as they all like to call him. I've got to give them their due. Finally, Chris, we're getting the fights now. And they're all on the same page, the 12, 13 promoters, because they just couldn't get it sorted, could they? There was so much shit, red tape they were having to go through. Just absolutely made up, Chris, that we're getting the fights. The fights are on, which obviously December 23rd, I'll put the graphic up now. What a night. All these fights are main event worthy as well.
Mm-hmm.
Kicking off Riyadh season.
It's crazy. There are a few people I think me and you would happily switch around.
I think they're just trying to whet our appetite. I suppose they didn't want them fighting straight away, did they? Maybe. I know we're waiting anxiously to see the fights, and I know exactly who you're going to say, but I think it just gives the build then, doesn't it? You've got 2 or 3 fights that are going to be coming.
I like Bivol versus Lyndon Arthur.
Lyndon Arthur, what a chance, what an opportunity.
That's a great fight. I think, Wallen was really good against Fury.
It's that left, it's that southpaw.
Yeah.
He's got to be careful, hasn't he? Sorry, I'm jumping in.
No, but, Joshua looked very close to his old self in his last fight, didn't he? Very close. Maybe he's building that confidence back up. Wilder, I think he's had 1 fight since he lost to Fury. I think for me, he'll just use that dynamite flipping hand, won't he? And I think he'll sleep Parker. And Dubois, again, very lucky against Usyk. Against Miller, that's a good fight for him as well. But
Miller was getting it in the neck off AJ, wasn't he?
Yeah.
That was like, there's all sorts of shit going on at that presser. It's like, whoa, you 2 aren't fighting yet. It's like, I don't like Wilder. Miller, wasn't it? But I want him to knock you out, yada yada. It's all you had all that going on stage.
Yeah. I think it's a good comeback fight for Dubois, but I think again he's another, he's still learning, but he's another one like Wilder. Don't think he hits as hard as Wilder, but he's definitely got dynamite in his hands as well.
Usyk lost that fight. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. How can you give someone 5 minutes?
Well, I still don't think that was below the belt line.
No chance. Not a chance. He was hurt. He couldn't continue.
And he's been beaten. Was it in the Olympics by a body punches, didn't he? These are things that the likes of Fury and all that are going to really look at. But yeah, he's very lucky against Usyk. But he showed a lot of things coming his way that, once he hones more of his skills, that, he'll be back up there again. Or, actually, fuck Joshua versus Parker. Why don't we do Joshua versus Dubois? That'll be fine.
This is the thing now. This is the thing with it, because they're all working together. But we've wasted how many years? But I'm just thankful, Chris, because a lot of the guys are getting into mid-30s now. Early 30s, mid-30s, nearly touching 40. Not to say we've seen boxers do it in their 40s. And I think boxers are a lot fitter now. Some boxers will go into their 40s and do it. But you want to see them at peak, don't you? And thank God all these promoters are working together now. But we're talking real money now, aren't we? The Saudi money's in. So they had to do it. Something needed to glue it all together.
No, it's worked out for them. And, as you said, the Saudi money is obviously where they want to be. And they can afford it. And, if we can get these now on a regular basis of having the best fight the best, with no red tape in the way, it'll make boxing so much more better, and people will tune back in again. We don't want to see Fury faces Chisora 9. We don't want to see that. We want to see him as he is doing in February. Usyk, we want to see Joshua versus Fury. We still want that fight. We want Wilder up there because I'd like to see Wilder and Joshua. They're both heavy hitters, and as I say, Dubois up there as well. If they can get like elimination and get them all in one row, and we can have whatever outcome it is between any of them, and actually have the fights together, it would be brilliant.
The only thing I have now, Chris, is we're not going to get domestic. We're not going to get the fights domestically. That's the only negative I've got. But I know they've got to go there. But our nights over here have been fantastic. But obviously, the money's going to outweigh them doing doing the fights here. That's my only negative with it. I love the fact it's happening and things are coming along. But it's just we're not going to see fights in the UK as much now. The big ones, the big blockbuster fights. But I suppose you can't have it all your own way, I guess.
No, and again, it's a shame. If we did ever get to Joshua and Fury and it actually happened, you'd want it at Wembley. But if the Saudis can get it done and they have to fight in Saudi Arabia, it's one of them, and it's so be it. But you still get the appetite for the fight, and it does actually happen. We're not getting countdowns for signing this, countdowns for signing that. It gets red taped, cleared, signed. Now you're fighting.
Absolutely. I'm moving on into 2024, mate. I know it's going to be in February of next year. I'm finally continuing Riyadh season into next year. It's going to be Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk for all the gold finally, undisputed, all the belts on the line. And yeah, finally, mate, it's going to be happening in February.
How long have we been speaking about these two fighting? And it's like Joshua and isn't it? Fury. I wasn't sure that Fury wanted it, beforehand. But I'm glad it's happening. I just hope he puts on a better performance than he did against Ngannou, because he looked shocking. Usyk will wipe the floor with him. If he come in like he did in Francis Ngannou, which I'd imagine he won't, but the last showing is always what you're going to remember before the fight, aren't you? And he needs to come in better. He needs to be back to his frame of mind where he was before Ngannou, maybe before Derek Chisora, because that was a waste of time. Like against Dillian White, but this is going to be really interesting, and don't even ask me where I think it's going to go, because I really don't know at this point.
He's doing a full camp as well, Fury. So full well. He's given it the full 3 months or however long, probably prior to 3 months. He's been, I don't think he gave Ngannou. I think he thought he was going to just, dance around him and stuff. It wasn't a full camp. He underestimated him, didn't he? From what you read online and what you've heard of people.
Well, you'd like to think that's true, because it might take a tiny bit of shine off, but he got dropped by Ngannou and you saw his face and it was like, what did I just get hit by? I'm not saying it's levels of Wilder, because when Wilder hit him, he pretty much didn't get up until the last minutes or seconds, should we say? Yeah. Now this is an interesting, and this is something we all want to see. Let's just hope nothing now happens in between December to February, because things like that can happen, can't they? And I can't wait. I just let's settle it now. Obviously they'll rematch, because that's most definitely going to be in a clause, isn't it? But I'm excited for Fury Usyk. We're going to see who the best is.
Absolutely, mate. Frank Warren said, I've heard him. He actually went on TalkSport. They're not happy with Adam Catterall. Adam Catterall's just speaking from a journalistic standpoint, and he's a fan. He's not allowed to have an opinion. It's just let him out. He's very good at what he does.
Yeah, I agree.
Frank Warren's down his throat, but you're saying about Chisora, they took that fight because they'd offered AJ 40% to their 60 and they didn't take it. He didn't want him to fight Chisora. He said, this is Frank Warren speaking. He was like, didn't want him to fight Chisora, but they couldn't get it sorted with AJ, could they? And it said like AJ had the best offer. AJ had a better offer than what Usyk's had. I think it's 70-30 because he keeps saying Fury was like, there's 30 million quid there for you. So I think it's 70-30.
But then I suppose people tune into Fury, don't they? Don't tune in for Usyk unless you're a purist. But you know what? Whatever, innit? They still make a bucket load of money, more than we'll ever make in our lives. So, you know what I mean? I'll take a punch for 30 million.
I won't write Usyk off. Just stylistically, I think it's just like you say, Fury's going to have to take it so frigging serious, and I think he is because of obviously length of camp. He knows deep down he has to. Otherwise, look at Ngannou. Can't take it away from Ngannou. You can't take it away from the bloke.
And I don't think his mind games are going to work with Usyk either. Eastern Europeans are built differently. They don't. Mind games go through their head and out their, the other end of their ear. It doesn't bother them.
Absolutely. So, Chris, it's been quite the year in 2023, and we've had onus on 2024, haven't we, as well? Which it's going to be exciting across both combat sports, bare knuckle as well. Let's talk about the other combat sports as well as it's good, and I think it's just hopefully these fights will get made. Especially in boxing, we'll have the knock-on effect then that they've all got to fight each other into 2024, Chris.
Well, this is what we want. You know what I mean? We've come back at the right time. We've come back now. Everything's getting sold. We will have much to talk about next year.
It was always like, why has this not happened with the boxing? I think, to be fair to Dana, they do manage to get the fights made in the end, and they've all been under that one umbrella. If there was injuries and stuff, or there's stuff going on, he does. So, boxing could learn. I think boxing have learned a little bit, let's just put the egos aside, man.
Yes.
Let them come in and let's do it. And it's going to be fantastic. Yeah. Chris, where can the viewers and listeners find you?
Nowhere. I'm hidden. You'll find me on Twitter at Van Hume and our Big Fight Weekly page on Twitter at Big Fight Weekly 1. Instagram is the same again. It's at Van Hume and at Big Fight Weekly. That's about it, really. I'm not giving you my Facebook, so go away. That's mine. That's it, really. You know what I mean? I'll pop around, and you might hear me here, there, and everywhere now and again. But I look forward to doing this again next year, and sporadically when we can do it, and we've both got time. And maybe I'll be feeling better the next time we do it. But it's been a great year for fights. It's great to cap it off with return of Big Fight Weekly. I'm happy. I want, as you said, I want more fights and bigger fights next year. I want to be greedy in that case.
That could be a Christmas present. Absolutely. Hello, John Scott, who got us started doing this when Powered 4 was obviously going. And thank you very much for that as well, as we always say. Afternoon, lads. Good to see some friendly faces back on. Hope you're both well and all families all good. Xmas boxing looking good coming up. Yeah, everyone's sound here, mate. And it's going to be, the card's going to be good on the 23rd. All decent fights, and the 4 undercard matches as well. A solid. Hrgovic beat Zhang, who beat Joe Joyce, but that was disputed. They said the judging was poor, but Hrgovic has got a win over Zhang.
I forgot about Zhang. Yeah,
he's touching the top table nearly. 2 great wins against Joyce, which is a shame for Joyce. But Hrgovic, who's on the card, he's solid. He's solid heavyweight. He's got a win against Zhang. So it's interesting, the fights below the main card. But thanks, John. Thanks for that.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And we have been Big Fight Weekly special episode 69. And it has been a 2023 review and a 2024 preview as well, with some bits and bobs. And we will see in the new year. Definitely we'll have some specials, won't we, Chris, along the way?
Most definitely. The book isn't closed anymore. The book is open again.
I knew you'd get the book again. I knew it. I knew it. Thanks for your comments as well. Thanks for watching us. And this will be available on podcasts as well, on all the audio formats as well. I'll send it over to you, Chris.
Nice one. I'll see you all next year.
Merry Christmas. Take care, everybody.
Yes, and that too.
All the best.